So this course section is about two main things: URLs, or routes as we could also call this concept, and views. Now what are these things then? And let's start with URLs. What are URLs or routes? No matter which website you're visiting, you always do so by entering some URL like this. For example, if I want to visit my own website, academind.com, I can enter this into the browser bar. Or, of course, you always often just type what you want to search it, and then click on the result in Google. But either way, you end up with a URL being entered in that browser URL bar, and that's responsible for displaying this website. But on websites, you of course typically don't just have this root level URL. Instead, you can click on other items like tutorials or premium courses, and you will see that this URL up there changed. It now has a /courses at the end, or /tutorials. And that's of course not just the case for my own website here, but that's the case for basically any website out there in the web. If I visit Amazon.com, for example, I can click on today's deals or customer service, and you will see that that URL changes. So when building a website as a web developer, we have to plan which URLs we want to support. And there we might have that main URL with /nothing after that domain here, which loads the starting page. And then let's say if we're building a blog, we also want to have a /posts URL, which shows a list of all posts. So where we load a page that displays the posts. And we might then also drill in deeper and load /posts/Python is great to show a page for a very specific post. So the idea is that we have various URLs which lead to different results, different responses being sent back to the visitors of our website. And that's what this concept called URLs, or routes as it's also often called, all about. It's about mapping certain actions, certain things that should happen, to certain URLs. If I visit mypage.com/nothing, I want to show the starting page. So that HTML file that represents the starting page should be fetched and should be sent back. If I visit /posts, I want to fetch all posts, probably from a database, and then show those posts on an HTML page, which is being sent back. That's the idea behind URLs. And that's the first important part of this course section. And of course, we're going to learn how we can configure those supported URLs which we want in our project with help of Django. Now, the other important part of this course section are the views. Now, what are views? Well, the URLs are responsible for defining the URLs we want to support and the actions that should be triggered. Views then basically are those actions. Views are all about holding the concrete logic, the concrete Python code that should be executed for the different URLs and for different HTTP methods, which is something we're going to explore later in the course. A view in Django, in a Django project, in its simplest form is just a function full of Python code which is executed automatically by Django when a request for a certain URL reaches the Django server. It could also be a class. You have both options when working with Django, and we're going to see both options in action throughout this course. But we're going to start with a function, since that's the simplest way of writing logic that should execute when a request reaches a certain URL. And then the code in that view is simply code that handles the incoming request, does something like reach out to a database or whatever, and then returns a fitting response. And in a view, you typically perform tasks like loading and preparing data, Running any other kind of business logic, like encrypting passwords or something like that. And then you prepare and return the response data. For example, a HTML document that should be sent back to the client, so to the user visiting your website. That's a view. It's a function or a class holding the logic, so holding the code that should execute when a request reaches one of your supported URLs. So URLs and views work closely together, which is why this course section is about both. And now that we got the theory out of the way, let's write our first URL and view.